Hello, folks. Welcome to another video dealing with being an XJW. Again, my name is Marvin, and this here is my lovely wife, Betty. And I wanted to bring her on, like I spoke in my last video, and give her a side of things that she experienced as a JW and so forth. So let's get right on into it. And Betty, me and you got baptized together in 1997, but before that time, you had an interaction with the witnesses. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, in 1978, I ran into some witnesses, very, very nice, very nice. And we started a study, and there was an issue about in the middle part, and that issue was I was told that I could not take any blood. Me being an anemic from birth and being pregnant with my second child, I felt like that was going to be a problem. So I really didn't have the nerves to tell them that I'm not going to be able to study with them. So at that point, I just started avoiding them, and I end the study. Just by avoiding them, they stopped coming by my home.
Okay, so that was your first interaction with the witnesses. Now, let's fast forward a little bit up to the time when me and you met and so forth. And can you tell the audience a little bit about how I was going to the Kingdom Hall? I was studying at that time. And how did we work that arrangement out?
Well, I was Baptist, and I was used to going to the Baptist church. So you didn't bother me about being a Baptist, and I didn't bother you about being a witness. So what we did is I would drop you off on Sundays to the Kingdom Hall, and then I would go to church, and then I would come back and pick you up.
That's exactly right. And you told me back then, as you mentioned something specific about why you end up. Before we get to that point, you should drop me off at the Kingdom Hall. And what happened one time when you dropped me off?
Well, once I dropped you off, I one time, let me put it this way. I drove up, I went to the parking lot, and as soon as I got out of the car, about four witnesses, sisters, they came up and they all sort of started speaking to me at the same time. It was something I have to say I was always skeptical. I've sort of always been that way. And they were so happy. They were so happy. They were so friendly. And I thought to myself, these are some nice people. And you came out, and once you came out, we left. They did ask about, studies and everything, but I really at that time wanted to stick with the church.
Yeah, so at the time you want to stick with the church, but at a later point, you mentioned to me that it's something scripturally that you didn't feel right about. What was that?
Well, when I decided to become a witness was because even in the church, even scripturally, the Bible stated, do not be unevenly yoked.
Right.
And so I knew, that we were together, and I really didn't care much for the I'm going one way and you going the other way, and I knew that if we were going to be together, we were going to have to be the same.
Yeah, but you really drove that home to me because I was all right with my wife, being a Baptist and staying with the church, and I was going to stay with the witness and to the point of being baptized as a witness. But as she spoke of, so we both end up studying together with a husband and wife team. We won't mention their names, but he's the PO of the congregation at the time and helped us progress. What was the process of studying like for you? What was there any issues with teachings that you had at that time?
Yes, almost all of them.
Yeah.
There was, I mean, coming from a Baptist church, and then, my upbringing, which maybe we'll get into later, you know, it was things that I would hear that it just didn't sound right to me. And it got to where our weekly study got to where at the end, we always got homework because I always had questions. And so the brother that was studying with us would always say, okay, Betty has a question. Uh, that's the homework. We're going to look it up and we're going to talk about it next week.
Mm. And there's one thing that you, while you were studying, was progressing to baptism. It was one scripture in Revelation that you had an issue with. Do you remember that? What was that dealing with?
Yeah, I did, but I did. You're obviously talking about the 144,000.
Right. Yes. It's
Yes,
144,000.
yes, because before we studied together, we actually studied separately. And I was studying with actually my supervisor from the job that I was working with. And so I was at her house studying, and she was talking about the 144,000. For some reason, I felt to myself, why? I actually said, no, it's going to be 146. And her family just sort of chuckled and everything. I didn't know what was going on, and they was like, "Why 146?" I said, "Because I'm gonna be one too."
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I thought, coming from the Baptist church, I thought you just get saved and you get to be one of them, and you're gonna go to heaven.
Yes, yeah. So come from that back, I was born and raised around the truth. I spoke in my video that I didn't make it my own until later on in life. And so my wife come from the background that she came from, being a Baptist, totally different beliefs, which many of you probably, former religions and so forth, had dealt with some of the same issues, some of the same teachings, and you just accepted them at the time because until you got further clarification in it. So we both ended up getting baptized together. How did that feel at that time?
Again, and I know some of you are gonna ask, from the background that I grew up in, and it goes a long ways. I came from a background to where it was a lot of alienation. So when I ran into the witnesses, when I got baptized, you know, and married and everything, I thought I was with the ultimate family.
Yeah.
I finally found a family because there was something that I didn't have growing up. Being really adopted, that's the way I felt. So I mean, I felt good. I felt good though, and it's very important for me to say this. I felt good because I got baptized with my husband.
That's a very good point. And to go over the point again, you spoke about the good feeling that one feels when when you first meet the witnesses. I mean, the smiles on their faces. You'll never suspect things that you'll experience later on being in the organization. But we both realized that we had set the witnesses on a high pedestal. We had high expectations and so forth. So to be disappointed later on, things that we'll get into and so forth. So I know, okay, you got baptized and everything like that. We was going to the Kingdom Hall, and to kind of, for time's sake and everything, I know that something about you that I know that you really love kids. You really love children, so tell us, share with them some of the things that you did with the kids in the congregation.
Okay, first of all, I thought it was the most awesome thing that I had ever seen, to see children participate in in the meetings. Where I came from, the kids be quiet. They have the little Sunday school, and they literally go outside and play during church. But to have the kids there raising their hands and commenting, I loved it. But I could see something there. Just to kind of throw this in, I am a licensed intern counselor, and my specialty is children. So I love working with them, especially those that special needs. And so I put a lot into the children. I love to take them on outings, to little small theme parks. I was really limited as to what I could do. So that was my place there, is the children. They love me and I love them.
Yeah, and what really kind of shook me up and was when you was working with the kids in the congregation, trying to organize events for the kids. Instead of going to the friends, always going to one particular location to take the kids to, you want to take them somewhere different they can experience. And you was able to do that. And you had many who supported you in the congregation. But what about the other half?
There were a lot that didn't support me. A lot of them, I have to say, I want to say that it was because it did cost a fee, very small fee. But a lot of them did not think that that was something that the kids needed. They were used to saying things like, I enjoyed your comment, and things like that. And I would say to them, but they need more than that.
Yeah.
I said, when they go back to school, they're going to go to school with kids that over the summer, they went on vacations, they went on theme parks, they had a good time. What is it that's stopping us from letting our kids have a good time? And a lot of them they didn't like it, they didn't understand it. They kept them just isolated within the Kingdom Hall to a picnic where every single body, them with all of the grown-ups and everything was all together, and that's all they could do was be right there and have a picnic. I felt like they needed their own time. I feel like they needed to be kids.
Yeah, that's a great point because we all already know how restricted young children are, especially if you was born and raised and you grew up in the truth, going to the Kingdom Hall, going to the assemblies, going out to preaching work. You already know how restricted your life can be as a young child. And so my wife was always wanting to work with the kids, to give them something different to do than the norm and stuff like that. So and to kind of go back a little bit here real quick on the education. Now, we all know that witnesses don't believe in higher education. When it comes to colleges and universities, trade schools, yes, we know that that's acceptable. But they kind of frown upon higher education. And so what is your, because you do got a degree, right?
Right.
Right. And what is your degree in?
My degree is in counseling.
Mm-hmm.
My major and my specialty is childhood sexual abuse. It's what I've been into, the field I'm actually in the middle of my master's in childhood adolescence. And with that, the field is to be able to go into special needs and work with multicultural childhood sexual abuse. So it's something that I've been in, along with chemical dependency as well. And it's something I've been in since 1997. So for a minute, I stopped because I thought that I couldn't, and it sort of set me back. But once I really realized that's what I really wanted to do, I went back, regardless of what elders said or anybody else said. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, because that's the issue is very dear to your heart and also mine as well, but more so you. And we'll get to that story later on if you want to, but it's very interesting because you got your bachelor's degree and so forth in that field. You work on your master's, and actually you was going to school while you was full time in the ministry, working full time.
Yes.
Yeah. So you was
yes, I worked full time. I was a regular pioneer. Went to pioneer school and everything, and I was going to school as well. Yeah. So I was always really busy. The witnesses was okay with everything except for the schooling and counseling. Right. For some reason, they believed that was something that wasn't necessary in the organization. And now it's becoming like, now they are trying to direct individuals to get help if they need help outside of the truth. Outside the organization. I use that word because you had elders, at least one in particular that you spoke of, came to you because of your expertise in that field,
And not only on that instance, the big instance I think I could think of that you told me about before was after a certain Watchtower study. It's a bunch of sisters that came to you. Do you remember what that Watchtower was dealing with?
Yes, it was actually after the documentary about the sexual abuse
Yeah.
within the organization. We had a Watchtower study on basically the safety of watching your children and being able to recognize it. A lot of the sisters came to me and wanted to talk with me about their own personal issues with it, being in that growing up. Just not to get in a whole lot about it, but actually, there are a lot that have been abused themselves. So whether they recognize it and act upon it, or whether they recognize it and just turn their heads, is two different things. But they did come. They did want to, really talk about it. Since it was so many, that very day we had that Watchtower. I mean, I sort of teased, but at the same time, I was really being serious, and
Yeah.
I just let them know that I wouldn't be able to just go to them and help them like that. That they really should seek help.
Yeah, that's true. Because many people, it could be from family, it could be within an organization, have experienced sexual abuse, and many individuals haven't sought help yet, and they need help. They need some kind of direction which you're going to, and so forth. Um, Another thing that I want to touch on real quick too is also we both knew a brother who was he was an elder at the time. Um, it was suspicious talk about him, and others probably knew more about him and so forth. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, we won't mention his name, but I seen him personally in the back of the Kingdom Hall by the magazine counter with some of the young people. And he had a little transistor radio in his hand. And he had the one like local hip hop stations, K104 here in Dallas, Texas. And he had it playing inside the Kingdom Hall. And there was one young girl, she was standing by the magazine counter, bent over and was twerking, whatever, and inside the Kingdom Hall. And he was sitting back there with them. And there was a lot of rumors about him, but they had no to witness thing, whatever going on, and with that and everything. Do you remember that account?
Yes, I do. I remember it very much. I mean, I'm known as someone that they say my ears like go up, when I see this, but it's because I know a lot about it, educational wise, experiment wise, experience, I'm sorry, wise. Yeah. I mean, and I've seen it so much and so close that, I know it when I see it.
Yeah.
And they, even my own children will say, Mom, is that the first thing you think about? No, it's the first thing I see.
Yeah.
And so I saw this when we were out in service. And I saw that that same brother would always have those same young ladies out with him in service. And their parent would be somewhere else. Yeah. And that was something that, because I really didn't know who to go to, and I didn't have any proof of anything, it was something that just had me unsettled about that situation.
I remember another incident, a brother that we used to go out of town and go down to, he had a big home by the lake, and we used to go down there and visit, and a bunch of other brothers and so forth, and there was one brother and sister who had some young daughters, and you seen something that really didn't touch you right that he did to one of the young girls. Can you share that with us?
Yes. The kids love me everywhere I go. They just take to me. I mean, actually, they do it now in stores.
Yeah.
One of the young ladies was on the floor. She was writing. She was writing, and I think I told her to draw something.
Right.
And she was drawing, and the brother came in, and he spoke to her, said her name, and He spoke to me, he spoke to everybody, and then she said something back to him, and then he put his foot on her butt
Mm-hmm.
and started moving it around.
Yeah.
And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and I frowned.
Yeah.
He took it down, and he started laughing. I said, "That's not funny."
Yeah.
Like that. And he just kind of shrugged me off, but he left. He left and he went, they were having a barbecue, and her dad was outside doing the barbecue. And he just left and he went out there. I told my husband immediately when I left that I'm totally unsettled by that. I didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
So normally when I have to use the word because it's what it is, when a pedophile does that, they're extremely nice.
Right.
Then yeah, there are some motivations there that's not very scriptural.
So this is a very deep subject, no doubt, and everything. There's a lot of situations that you might see, I have seen in the past, happen and so forth, among the Jehovah's Witnesses that kind of made you really think about something right about the situation. And actually, the same brother she's speaking about, I had a situation with him personally where another brother, he was white, and I kind of know his history. His father was the Grand Dragon, the KKK, back in the day, and it runs deep in his family, and with many witnesses, racism, prejudice runs deep. And so, but this particular comment that he made no sense to me. A black brother had gave a talk at their Kingdom Hall, and so he was joking and laughing about it. He said one of the other brothers told him that was a good nigga talk. I can't use that word, I don't think, on YouTube, but he told him that it was a great end talk. And so everybody was laughing. The other brothers were laughing and everything, and I just looked because of my background dealing with that, and I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, going through the busing situation in the '70s and everything, very sensitive to that type of stuff. I made a point to call him when I got home and tell him that I didn't appreciate it. And his first response was like to deny it, but he knew he said it, and then he apologized, and that was really actually good enough for me, and so forth. So just to throw that in there because it was the same individual that we're talking about. So let's kind of bring this video currently to a close right now. But what was one of the main things, contributing factors to you wanting to leave the organization? I know there's many, but what was the main ones?
The main one is that, first of all, the smiles that I got in the beginning were not the smiles that continued.
Yeah.
But the actual factor for me is that I love children to the point to where once I saw the documentary, I coupled that with what I had seen. Those weren't the only situations. There were situations where young girls were trying to tell me things that, that actually either was trying to happen or had happened. And I knew that my contributing factor was sexual abuse by the elders.
Yeah.
Before I saw the documentary, I thought to myself, I know that I had studied quite a bit of different religions. Even I studied Islam. And I know for a fact that, yes, I understand that everybody's not perfect. I understand all of that. Right. And I understand what the Catholics, how they did the children. And what I said one day was, it's no way in the world that this organization do not have some things in the closet. Yeah. No way.
She's very adamant about that.
I told my husband about it, and he kind of went a different direction. He really didn't say much, and I started looking. Yeah. And I actually came across the lawsuits. Once I came across the lawsuits, believe it or not, it wasn't a week later
Yeah.
the documentary came. I saw the documentary. Now, just so I'm going to close with this.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly, maybe I could have put a forgiving thought in there if it wasn't happening again. But once the situation kept being hidden,
Mm-hmm.
it was still happening.
Yeah.
I could see children were unhappy.
Yeah.
I knew it's no way that I can work toward making children try to live with situations that they've already had, and I'm in an organization
Mm-hmm.
where it's still going. No way.
So if I, that's beautiful the way you express that because it's kind of deep from your heart and everything. Something's really troubling, and just kind of go back a little bit, what you were saying, because my wife, she started doing research. We had seen the documentary, and she started when she first came to me actually and told me about it. I mean, I was like in denial. I was like, no, ain't no way. Like no doubt, many of you who are still, JWs, or many of you who are ex-JWs felt at one time. I said, no way that this can be happening in the organization. Worldwide, no, no. And so the evidence became overwhelming because we sat down and we watched the documentary together. And then you started doing more research, as you say, and everything. And then once I started on YouTube here, that's why I said you guys are so very important. You XJW who's out there diligently doing all the research, putting all this information together worldwide, and it's overwhelming. Then you see the videos from the courts and everything, where they line up in court about these cases and everything, and the settlements they're paying in the millions and millions of dollars. Many current witnesses do not know this. They don't know this. And so we know, of course, that's why they don't want them listening to such videos as this and the other ones that are created out there. So that was the deciding factor because you were ready to leave, right?
Yes.
I wasn't quite ready to leave yet. I'm kind of slow on things a lot of times and so forth. So I had to kind of like let things, think about things and so forth. I know I didn't want to go back to the Kingdom Hall. And the only thing that was kind of stopping me, as I spoke about, was the family relationships. Once I got over that little hump, I'm like, you know what? Because you expressed to me that why would you want to be a part of an organization that participates in this? Because it is a crime. And a person do not want to be part of that and so forth. So,
And
yes.
I also want to add that because you knew too
Yeah.
that I did not want to be uneven in any way.
Right.
And it started really bothering me because I was ready to write my letter, and because you kept saying, well, the last thing you said that really, I mean, I was literally frightened because, of how long we've been married and been together. I was really frightened because I knew that if I wrote my letter and you didn't, I was still going to be married to the organization.
Yeah.
So it would have been a bit hypocritical to me.
Yeah.
And so I said to you, I don't know what I'll do.
Yeah. So in closing, Barry, I really appreciate you coming on here. I'm sure the viewers really appreciate the information that you shared and so forth, and this is the field that you work in. The things that you went through when you first came into contact was the blood issue. When she first came into contact with the witnesses, and then me and you meeting and together and wanting to get married, and you not wanting to be unevenly yoked, and then you come to the organization, both get baptized together, and then the things that you experience, you pioneered, and so forth. I was able to serve as a minister, serve as an elder. So we both were deep in the truth at that time, and events started happening, unfolding over time, and so forth, and it opened a person's eyes to what this organization really was all about. In closing, though, it was funny at the time, but you was like, who are these? Who's this governing body? Who are these people? So my wife planned a trip with a group of individuals in the congregation. That in itself is a story. With a group of individuals in the congregation, we all went up to New York. It was like 2 carloads of us, and we went to the headquarters when they were still in Brooklyn at the time.
Milwaukee.
Yeah, and we went up to Waukegan, the farm, and everything like that, and so forth. But you kind of the tour. We was going on the tour and everything, and we got by the office where the government. What did you want to do?
I wanted to peep in all the offices because I'd never seen them.
Yeah.
I always looked at them like the little man on the Wizard of Oz that was behind the curtain, you know, and I was just, I wanted to see him.
Yeah.
I didn't see him. I'm like, who is, you know, who are they? Why are they pulling strings? Why are they, you know, people are doing things, and, you know, I'm one of those people that I like to know where things are coming from the best I can. But I was peeping indoors, and actually we first went up 9/11, and we started going up every 2 years. And I made it my point to want to go because I was determined to see the governing body.
Yes, yeah. And we got to eat with the Bethelites and so forth like that. And we had a great time with the friends up there in New York City and so forth. So there's a lot of individuals who are in the organization who are great people, loving people and so forth. And they do mean well and so forth. So I guess what I like to say, like, from you, somebody who like perhaps is undecisive in that area. What would you recommend to them?
This is what I did. From the beginning, I just seen things, and I heard the witnesses say things that I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
And I literally did pray and said, if this is not it, if this is not where I'm supposed to be, please just show me.
Right.
And I was never ever comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't comfortable. I gave great, you know, parts on the school. You know, whenever it was someone that it was hard for the sisters to get a study with, I was good with going in, working, you know, with women that had problems. And I just want to say this. I just want to say, and I said to clients as well, you are going to have to figure out what is your worth.
Right.
What is your worth? You know, who are you?
Yeah.
What do you want to represent, and what do you want representing you? You know, it's okay, you know, to be submissive, but to be subjected is a different thing.
Yeah.
You know, people used to ask me all the time, are you submissive? I used to say, oh yeah, I don't mind my husband running things. I said, because if we think about it, he's the head. Not only is he going to have to run it, he's going to have to own up to it. And so, you know, it became a little joke, but for every woman is what I want to really say. For every woman, you, if you really, really want to be a woman enough to love your husband enough to make the right decisions for yourself. For yourself. You can fool yourself, but you're not going to be able to fool anybody else.
Okay, great. So let me make this point very clear. We're not trying to encourage individuals to leave the organization. What we're simply doing, like many other individuals have done before, is to share our story, share our experience as JWs. Because by others sharing their story, it tremendously helped me. My wife, I'm more conservative and laid back. My wife, she questions things. She does research, because we're encouraged in an organization, do research, but only in Bible-based publications printed by the Watchtower Society. But my wife, by going to school, she's able to, and this being an inquisitive individual, it had really tremendously helped us out and everything. And one thing also in closing, I am so, we've been married for over 25 years now, and I am so happy that I am with my wife Betty. because we've seen so many couples within the organization very unhappy. I'm talking about from the PO on down. You can see it in their relationship, just totally unhappy and so forth. So, Betty, again, I want to thank you. I'm sure everybody in the audience appreciate it. And guys, I'm going to have her on again, and we're going to talk about some other things. Anything that y'all want to see or hear, especially my wife, talk about, just put in the comments below and so forth, and we'll be glad to at some point get to that and everything. Till the next video, you guys take care and continue to do what you do.
Be safe.